Bipartisan bill to stop the CFTC from being able to regulate sports-style prediction markets and turn that regulation over to the states. Another bipartisan bill would ban congressional members, their family, and other elected officials from putting money into prediction markets. We've also had a group of congressional Democrats propose legislation that would ban sports, election, and war-related contracts altogether. And don't forget, last week, the state of Arizona filing criminal charges against Kalshi for illegal gambling and election wagering. Kalshi and Polymarket issuing press releases this week saying they've tightened guardrails to prevent insider trading on their platforms. Joining us now is former New Jersey governor and current American Gaming Association strategic advisor Christie. He, of course, led the fight to legalize sports betting and give states the choice about it. Governor, it's great to have you back. And let's start with, it does seem, since the last time that we spoke, that there's now a slew of people looking to rein in this activity. What would you say are the first and most necessary steps?
Well, first off, let's remember something, that with all the different individual bets you were just talking about, the wallets that went from 40 to 872K, still for companies like Kalshi and Polymarket, 90% of their activity is on sports. These are, in the main, sports betting companies operating outside the law in all 50 states in this country. And it's not only in the states where legal sports gambling is legal, it's in the states where sports gambling has been made illegal by those individual states. So what you're seeing is a lot of more aggressive state action going on. You mentioned Arizona taking aggressive state action. You can see it in Iowa as well, and some other places that are going to become much more aggressive about it. And in addition, you've had the CFTC saying, oh, we'll be the regulator. And you've seen these wild bets in other areas of governmental action going on. And now they put out a statement saying we're going to tighten the guardrails. Well, you've had people on your program from these companies over and across the network here at CNBC who have been saying there's no problem at all. We have safeguards in place. What we're showing is there are no safeguards in place. These are rogue actors who are out there operating outside the law, and they need to be brought back within the law by each individual state, not by a federal regulatory agency that literally has no investigators on staff.
So you are well known, obviously, as the former governor of the great state of New Jersey and presidential candidate. But, Chris, I'm going to ask you to put your former prosecutor hat on, the attorney general of the state of New Jersey. Legally, to Christie, what is the difference between Kelly or Brian betting on the outcome of a basketball game on a FanDuel or a DraftKings, or Kelly and Brian and I betting on Kalshi or Polymarket, who wins the game? What is the legal difference between the online betting markets and the prediction markets?
There's no legal difference between those two. For the bettor, they're betting on the outcome of a sporting event. It's a sports bet. Now, they call it something different on a predictive market. They try to paint it as an investment. But in the end, Brian, it is a bet. It's not an investment. You're not getting anything back in return, like a security that you would get or a commodity that you might own as part of a trade. No, this is all about betting on sports. And so for the bettor, there's absolutely no difference at all, except for one very important thing. If you're betting with a DraftKings, an MGM, a FanDuel that is regulated by the states, if something goes wrong with your bet, you can go to a state regulator and seek enforcement. If it goes wrong on one of the predictive markets, there is literally no place to go. You're out of luck.
Governor, this might take us a little bit, into deeper territory, but so many of these states, the pitch, and I'm a New Jersey person, so I'm thinking about this from your point of view, but if we legalize sports betting, I'm not necessarily a huge fan of that, but fine, you get the revenue, maybe you do something for education. I think that's the best case scenario, and I understand the prediction markets are now coming in and cannibalizing that. How much of this should be a concern to state budgets, and how much of the original revenue behind sports betting has actually gone to fund things like school choice or education?
A lot. You look at some of these states where you have school choice programs that are being funded by this, that are being significantly impacted. In New Jersey, for instance, they collect over $200 million a year in tax off of sports betting. And so the concern is certainly in part tax revenue. But I would argue to you that's just a small part of it. That the lack of regulation impacts potentially those who are betting on the games and whether they're going to get paid and whether or not the market itself is going to be a fair market to the bettor. Then, in addition to that problem, you're looking at sports integrity. In the legalized betting markets that we have in the individual states, they are required by regulation to be monitoring, along with the sports betting companies, unusual betting activity, insider betting activity potentially. And when they see something unusual, they're under an obligation to report that to the sports leagues and to law enforcement. The predictive markets have no such obligation, nor are they doing it in any way right now.
And I think that's the problem and where the fix is going to have to happen, right, Governor? Where it's the insider trading laws of this country have been shaped and formed for 70, 80 years, coming out of the 1930s, and they're pretty well known and well regulated. There's a couple holes, but whatever. The prediction markets, it's a bit of a different story. If somebody tells me something that might influence the overall stock market, and I said, well, okay, I'm going to go on one of these prediction markets and make a giant bet. Turns out I'm right and I get cashed out. There's nothing legally wrong with that now, is there?
No, there isn't. And it's
Should there be? Should there be?
Well, there should be. And by the way, as it pertains to sports, it should not be happening at all outside of state regulation. Here's the problem. The federal government through the CFTC right now is trying to fix a problem that is not broken. Sports gambling has been going on in this country now for just about 8 years. It'll be 8 years this May that has been broadly available across the country. And you have not seen any problems reported in state-regulated sports gambling. We don't need the federal government involved in it. Now, if they want to have predictive markets on some of the other issues that you have all discussed this morning, on other actions, well, that's something that the states could consider if they want to include that, or the federal government could say this is an area that we want to go into. But on sports betting, guys, it's not a problem. There's nothing broken. Why is the federal government intervening here? And what we're seeing is something very opposite of what the Trump administration has said is their philosophy. They've said they want to move power back to the states. They want to lessen federal regulation. They want to shrink the size of the federal government. Yet you have the CFTC out there doing exactly the opposite, wanting to do more federal regulation, wanting to make the federal government bigger and more intrusive in the lives of people. This is opposite of what the Trump administration has stood for, and one has to wonder why.
Well, really glad you're here to lay it out for us. I have a feeling that this debate, this discussion is going to only increase. And Governor Chris Christie, welcome back anytime. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
And we do need to note CNBC and Kalshi have a commercial relationship that includes CNBC a minority investment. We reached out to Kalshi and Polymarket for comment. We're showing you the statement from Kalshi here on the bipartisan bill proposed by Senators Schiff and Curtis. They say the bill would push the behavior offshore without regulation and that competition should run its course without protecting monopolies. They also call the charges from the Arizona Attorney General, quote, seriously flawed.